created my own little algorithms to do one thing or another, like disease states, a mortality algorithm. And
I think you will have a whole levels of robotics, that humanoid robots or non-humanoid robots, whatever the case is.
But the one that I really gravitated towards was Alteryx. Low code, no code, business intelligence stuff, data science, machine learning, things like that.
Audio, the text, and then everything's big metaverse bug. Everybody knows the metaverse.
Another week of AI.
So it falls on us to do AI today, huh?
AI.
You know, I've been doing this for so long. Every episode feels like a benchmark moving forward to something. And
It is, and staying
amazing.
consistent.
Yeah.
No matter what.
So we haven't done this in a while, where me and Lucky would go through just topics after topics on our podcast, because we really wanted people to have a spectrum of understanding, right? Because when we talk to people, they always say like, what about that? I'm like, what about something else? They're like, no, just that. I was like, okay, that's kind of like saying I'm missing the forest for a tree.
Yeah.
Right. And then when we go through all these topics, all of a sudden everybody's like, whoa, like I'm missing the tree for the forest because I'm not actually seeing anything now. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's like that. It's been a balance of science of balancing the conversation to say, how do we stay focused? How do we meet that objective, the goal?
Mm-hmm. What is the objective and the goal is the question.
Have we said that before? You know,
right? It's like it's asking the question: what are we here for? What is our purpose?
Yep. Are we on God's mission?
Right. I oftentimes tell people, because people, they'll say, "Well, I'm not a believer," and I'm like, "It's okay. God is still God." You don't.
Yeah, and the objective here has been always to bring the military veterans close to maybe a curiosity, or close that gap in understanding, because they're so curious and they're like, trying to understand these things. And of course, we want to focus on military veterans' careers, but everybody's looking for a job. It's not military veterans, right? Mm-hmm. It's not military veterans. Everybody's looking for a job, and everybody's looking to shift into the AI space to learn about these new technologies, right? The digital transformation that's happening. So if we were to engage, we have to educate, but education requires that time to time we move away from speaking on a topic, just go in there and say like, let's break this down a little bit, right? So I guess me and you are going to do that today. What do you think?
Well, let's do it. And also, going back to the idea of curiosity. Oftentimes when a subject is new, people are afraid to delve into it because it's new. Yeah. They don't know anything about it. And so for fear of looking foolish, because they don't know what questions to ask, some will, sway away from the question. So the most important thing is to talk about and introduce things in the realm of thought when we're talking about AI, with things that make it fun. Like we here lately, we've been seeing a lot of movies where their AI is the subject matter of the movie, right? Robots is the subject matter of the movies, AI within the robot, because essentially that's one of the same things. This isn't something new. We're just at the point where we're now discussing it because it's in your face. It's not going anywhere.
That one time I was reading an article and my jaw, I had to hold it up. I was like, wait, what? Are you saying that this movie is revolutionary because it's happening in the future? The way the article was written, it just felt like whoever wrote this have not been alive for that long. Mm-hmm. So remember this movie by Her, where the guy walked around with a lady on his phone and the lady was an AI? It's a movie called Her. Joaquin Phoenix was the main guy, and he was literally in love with her, dating her and everything. That's like a 9 years old movie.
I think I've seen that. Is that the same movie where there were people in like recliner chairs in a warehouse somewhere that were simulating human beings.
No, he had her on inside of a device, so he was in love with the device that had her in it, and she was an AI, right? So
you know what? That's happening. That's happening today.
That's happening today. But when that movie came out, the article said this is revolutionary because that's what the future looks like. I said, like, have you not used Alexa for the last 5 years? Have you not seen devices that you can carry in your pocket like Siri that will talk to you? Like, why is that so revolutionary? It's just literally taking a 10-year-old already existing topic and making a movie about it. And that movie was made 10 years ago, right?
Right. Well, it makes me think about, when people think about the future, nothing's the future, it's the now. Everything is now. It's like, where are you within your thought process that you get outside of yourself and you look at something, ahead of where you are in this moment, this specific time and place. It's all right now.
And this part right now, the conversation that I'm seeing a lot of, and my jaw kind of drops, is like people are talking about like robotics are in the future. Like, are we not facing the robots this time? Like, have we not done that for the last 30 years where we had robots? Like, what are we talking about with the future? It's already here. It's been here. Things are just going to get more wilder, I would believe. It's going to scale and it's going to be more interoperable. But that's why we picked those 3 topics, right? We're going to educate people about their AI knowledge gap assessment. Preferably as they learn, they can teach other people. So kind of like a train the trainer momentum. And then we're going to talk about digital twin, which will have humanoid robots, which will have these understanding of what does it take to use digital twin to create humanoid robots. And then, of course, you tell me the other one, Pawn the AI, like, that to me just gives me chill. That's going to be big, right?
Yeah, it's scary. But you know what makes things scary? What makes things scary is when you're not within the space of saying, okay, how can we look at this much more deeply for us to understand that it's already happening, and not to be fear-based, but to come with an understanding and ask lots of questions to discover in depth what it is and how it's happening and what we can do to understand it more so we won't be left behind.
Yeah, I think this whole transformation, the word AI transformation, does not apply to everybody. AI adoption, more like it, because they weren't really familiar with the business intelligence, the data gathering, data collection, so many steps that they have to get through in order to have artificial intelligence. So AI adoption versus AI transformation is like two levels of journey, right? Somebody probably is already there with their data, with their business intelligence. Now it's AI transformation. How do you take that business intelligence that gives you an option, but all of a sudden with artificial intelligence, you're getting answers. Options are great. Answers are better. Yeah. But if you can make decisions in the future, that's option plus answer, then decision making, the cognitive intelligence piece of it, right? ABC. So without further ado, I guess let's kind of walk through our chain of thoughts here. But from your perspective, like that data literacy perspective, let's harp on that, because like I just said, ABC, right? Well, where does that ABC start? It starts at D with data.
Right.
So let's talk through the data piece of it, because that's what we're gonna have to drive through these weekly engagement that we will have. And of course, we're recruiting. So if anybody's interested, listening, please sign up, and then we'll see where we can fit you in and what your interest is like. All right, let's see which one we can do. What do you think? This one? I think we can go with this one. This one.
Yeah, that one looks good.
This one looks good, right?
Yeah, because you could be the professor, Asif, of the AI, the smart AI community. You can be the professor.
You can't spell Asif without AI.
True. True. And you know what? I love the fact that you make it so chewable, right? Bite-sized pieces of knowledge.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I really want to emphasize is that whatever I learned within 10 years, I want somebody to learn that, if not in 10 months, in 10 days.
Right.
Because more you put in, faster you can learn, but you have to have the structure, which I didn't. So the bite size comes from really looking for a structure post-military, right? Post-military, I was all over the place. I did lots of things like ethical hacking, Linux, data intelligence. But slowly I learned into this machine learning. I didn't really evolve into AI. So by the time I really realized what AI was, I was already 5 years into the AI space, because everything to me was machine learning and statistical learning, right? I
Right.
use a lot of statistics to understand everything. So I'll pause at that, because machine learning is a heavy component that a lot of people will learn as they learn about AI. So this is no like something that I did, but this is Comet by Perplexity.
Mhm.
I will use this to kind of showcase what we're talking about here, right?
Awesome. Walk us through it.
Yep. Key collaborative AI learning methods, right? Um, it's a peer-to-peer method, right? But what we're going to do different this year, because this is our 5th year of getting people up to speed on AI. So how do we upskill somebody, but instead of just peer-to-peer in the age range, we're going to do peer-to-peer in multiple age range, right? Everybody's enthusiast, and that's what makes you a peer, right? Peer that is willing to dive deeper into AI or dive into AI for the first time. But everybody's going to learn together. I think that's the key here, is that we are looking at everybody else's lens of perspective, saying, how do we educate each other as we're learning for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
But what's the benefit behind it? Why is my thing not
Yeah.
showing?
What is the benefit behind it? And also, when you're talking through it, when it comes to peer with our aging community, we're currently in a time and space where people are no longer retiring like they once were, but in order to stay in the workforce, they have to upskill themselves and have an understanding of the AI and machine learning. And oftentimes they've been in that space and they didn't realize that they were in that space. So being able to come back to the table with, new graduates or individuals that continued on in the learning process, where they continued in a learning space with, AI, machine learning, neural networks, all of the things where it's labeled. While maybe the older peer may have already been doing those things, but they didn't label it. And now you have the younger individuals coming into the workspace where, everything is much more quick for
Yeah.
them. So being that we could be peer to peer and have respect for one another, where there, nobody knows more than the other, but coming together collectively to say, what are our best next steps?
I think at the end of the day, there's two things that somebody's going to get away with, right? They might not understand artificial intelligence any better, but what they will understand is that they have the best communication or they lack communication. If they have best communication or they lack communication, how do you at least draw the fact that you can communicate better because you've been around this group of people? And I'm seeing that a lot these days, is because people will go through a training session and come back and they will literally stop communicating because they have no idea how to communicate what they've learned with different age groups, right? Because this is one of the generation that has 6 different age group working in the workforce right now. So when somebody goes to school and does 10 days or 100 days or however many days of schooling, they come back to the organization and says, well, I learned all the things about machine learning, but there's no use for it here because nobody here communicates to say, let's do some machine learning, let's do some data intelligence, let's do some AI, right? If that kind of conversation is not happening, what ends up happening? Everything stalls, everything goes kind of regressive. So once you learn how to communicate, the second piece of it that you're going to realize is how difficult it is to communicate AI with everybody. Because me and Musako, we can talk about AI all day long because we're sort of like eye to eye about what AI is to us, right? But when it's not, then it's a problem, right? Communication and difficulty in people, process, and technology is what we really want everybody to kind of experience and move on from there. But in the process, why not learn about AI as well?
I'm glad you just said a keyword for me, Asif, and I want you to talk to this when we're talking about peer-to-peer learning with regard to this AI space. Processes.
Yeah.
Talk to the people about the processes of the peer-to-peer learning, because if you learn something but you don't have any process,
Yeah. So the process is easy as communicating an idea of a community of practice, right? You're building a team, and that team is a community. If that community has a practice that everybody can kind of enjoy and entertain themselves with, not necessarily a burden of a project. I don't want to say burden of a project, but it's sort of like we're communicating because we're part of an organization, and that organization has this sort of things going on. How do we do the train the trainer method? How do we engage with each other on these topics on a weekly basis? And this kind of goes back to that school idea. You cannot send somebody to school and expect them to come back and teach everybody. If that was your methodology, I don't know how that's going, but if you want to continue that methodology, community of practice is a great way to go, because it creates a process, and it also creates an energy of synergy, right? Everybody kind of sees like, okay, you're into robot, I'm into Excel sheet. How do we see eyes to eyes? Because like nobody's going to agree on how to make a robot and how to make an Excel sheet, right? Because everybody has their own appetite. One guy loves YouTube videos, the other one just loves the movies, but this other guy is a PhD. He doesn't even watch YouTube. He has no idea what the movies are, right? So they're going to have three different appetites. So the process really needs to come together with the people, right? I think you mentioned right before the call is that when you have the right process, people fall in line. But if you have the right sort of people, the educated ones, they're going to set up that process, and you're going to deliver through that process. Easy as always, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then finding that key thing that is the line through the entire group. You mentioned moments ago the robots. One loves robotics, one loves Excel spreadsheets. So if you can take the conversation of Excel spreadsheets and the coding that is developed within the use of Excel spreadsheets, and then the robot is developed in the coding and the communication within the robot. So being able to take that one piece of information and then draw that thin line connecting the things that each individual is passionate about, it gives everyone to have an opportunity to be enthusiastic about what they love.
Yeah. And it's happening right now a lot, because 25 years ago, if we just say 2000 after Y2K was a different era of AI, they've been doing AI for a very long time. But if you just count the last 25 years, you'll be able to calculate how many AI projects have not been successful. So there's been lots of these AI projects that has kicked off, and the number always hovered around 83%. But the recently Grace, who put out an article from MIT on her LinkedIn profile, and I saw it, I was like, wow, that's interesting, because that number has gone up, right? It's like 95% of Gen AI projects are not delivering any return on investment, right? There's no ROI, and it's failing. It's kind of like back in those days, we used to call it like 17% that is delivered underperformed. So there's a lot of hype about AI in the media, or hype about in academia, but in industry, everything was underwhelming, right? It did not perform to the level that the investment went into it. And when it didn't, like you said, 17% that underperformed, some of those 17% became what? Airbnb, Uber, Netflix. These are all AI-based company, right? They all have like lots of AI functionality behind their tech stack, right? Because of machine learning, because of deep learning, because of all these things that are AI-like, right? So the 17% never really delivered, but some of the 17% has improved over time. So when I say 25 years, that's a lot of time for something to grow and mature over time. And all of a sudden, everybody's like, I don't know how we live without that AI, right? How do we run an Uber or Lyft operation without AI? How do we run Tesla cars that drives by itself 80 miles an hour? How do we do that without AI, right? So that failure rate is so accepted at this point. Everybody's like, well, we have to do something. And everybody said, we tried the process and we tried the technology. One thing we haven't tried yet is the people, right? How do we engage the people to give them the right sort of mindset and tools, so that way everybody collaborates? It's not a bunch of data scientists in a lab. It's data scientists plus everybody outside that lab, right? How do we all come together? How do we do this community of practice? How do we build up our people so that way they can continue with that knowledge base, so that way the next generation of people can also continue with that AI. So it's not a 10-year term or 5-year terms of AI. It's a continuous AI development. So whole lot happens when you're in
Yeah,
collaborative
it's
environment.
just so it's interesting, Asif, to listen to you speak about this because AI isn't new, and yeah, right now because it's the buzzword, it appears as though everyone's making a mad dash to get something done. But what we're discovering at this point is there has been a lack of diversity in the people that were utilizing AI in that space, and so you're building these things that aren't working, and you know when you're always someone that's the first to the finish line, you come to find out it's normally it's not those individuals that have that great success, but it's those people that study what they did and then they create, right? So they were the early adopters, followers, and now they've taken what those that were first to market with and made it better. And being that we're in the space right now where everybody's making a mad dash to the utilization of AI, machine learning, neural networks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all the buzzwords, right? Because now we're at a point where it's hundreds of billions of dollars in use to build, incubators throughout different states. But here's the thing: if you do not have the space for everyone in those spaces to discover what it is that's needed collectively, it's still not going to work.
That's right.
Because just like with any robot movie where, they're talking about, is the robot going to begin to think for themselves? Because now you've trained this robot and the robot is taking on a mind of its own. Well, essentially everything takes on a mind of its own. So it's just best that, everyone have a space for them to have a degree of curiosity, for them to discover who they are and what they want to bring to the marketplace, right? Because everyone has their own unique capabilities that they're birthed to bring to the marketplace.
Yeah. Unique capabilities, and here's what I've been really challenged by a lot of people's enthusiasm in either side, right? They say we will only do hackathon or we will only do workshop. They will say we are risk averse, so we'll do workshop, but we are risk friendly, we will do hackathons, right? Hackathon means that because you have this natural talent that you can say, if I bring them to the hackathon, by day 3, day 4, next week, next month, we will have an AI prototype in production. We are observing it when we're growing it. And here we are in a workshop. They're like, let's think through that. Let's do AI governance. Let's do some of this GRC materials, right? GRC steps. So that way, it's not 2 or 3 weeks or 4 months thing. It's 40-year process. It's 4-year long process where we can actually scale our AI, sustain it, and then keep having interoperability built out of it. Like future extraction is the key word here, right? You're going to extract lots more future of this AI that you actually go through infancy, grow to maturity. Where in hackathon, you're just saying, let's just go in, guys, right? So everybody has their own people. That's the difference, right? If you have the people, you can go after either or. But if you don't know your people and if your people are not familiar with the process, hackathon or workshop is not going to work. Neither of them are going to work because they're not familiar with the process. They're not seeing a process that's going to deliver something, right? And how they fit into that process. So they're asked to deliver a technology. Like a lot of the time you'll hear it, I want AI. It's a movie, I guess. That's what you want. The movie called AI. I don't know what you want. You really haven't described it to me very well. So the reason I say all of that is because it's a team sports. The team sports of AI when human cannot contribute, right? So you have to think through lots of these emotional intelligence topics about humans that are involved in this process. Of course, we're developing AI, so human intelligence, emotional intelligence, those things has to be really addressed first of all in order to understand your people, and then walk them through the process, right? Because if you focus on the people first, all of a sudden you start realizing like they know the process very well. They know exactly what they will do in a process. But you're looking for their strength to, contribute into that process, which is again the future extraction that AI does, right? So this part about the something that humans can do and human cannot do. So we talk about a repeatable, redundant process that is sometimes is also dangerous, right? But repeatable and a redundant process, if you can get your people to start talking about that, that's where you start talking about the process. So, you talk about human intelligence, some of the emotional intelligence stuff. get people to start thinking, get them to start engaging, brainstorming. Now, all of a sudden, they're going to say, this is a repeatable and redundant process that we really can use AI for. And we can deliver something that will improve this repeatable and redundant process over time, right? So some things that humans can do is not necessarily something that humans should do forever,
Right.
because that's what the AI is challenging that notion right now, is that like, yeah, we will need humans to do that. Like, no, humans have other things to do. Let the AI do that piece, right? So that kind of conversation is coming up to the surface a lot. But the reason I put this up, the team sports of AI that human cannot contribute, it's a wide spectrum of things that artificial intelligence can do. So if you go back to some of the videos that I've been making for these three cohort members, three team of cohorts, is one of the things that I said is like, how do you knock off a cancer in an early state, right? So if you have a molecule that you can knock it off its course trajectory, instead of that molecule becoming a disease state, you can knock it off its path before it becomes a disease state, right? Can a human do that? A human can do that only if there's artificial intelligence involved in it, right?
Right.
Those steps that you have to do, the process that you have to do in order to knock that molecule off its path. Another one I used is when they had they generated power that is equivalent to the sun's heat, right? Sun's energy in the earth for flash of a second. Humans can produce that sun-like energy on earth, but the reason they knew they captured the right amount is by using artificial intelligence. So some things humans cannot even see.
So what was the result? What brought them to this? What was the test model?
Yeah, the power that went in to make that sun's energy, they actually made enough sun's energy to say, if we can maintain this amount of energy, this will continue to provide us with the amount of energy that is equivalent to what sun will give us. But the cost will be balancing out, right? As in, whatever the input is, the output is going to be greater.
Right. But my question is yeah, we have this, but what was the solution that they were seeking, right?
Well, the solution was to generate unlimited energy. Yeah, unlimited energy that doesn't require any fossil fuel, doesn't require any source of material other than infrastructure. That infrastructure will continue to generate electricity nonstop. No water's needed, no sort of nuclear leaks, right? None of that. So it's a fission energy generator, right? But the reason I say all of that is because some things humans cannot do alone, right? Human bodies are too big. We cannot put our fingers on everything, right? These sort of capabilities, we really have to think through to say some of the things that humans cannot do, but AI can, and let's go after those, right? Again, the spectrum is really wide. So somebody's talking about Excel sheet. Fixing an Excel sheet is very easy. But to find a molecule that moves trillion FPS, like a trillion frames per second, is really difficult to do, right? So not everybody's going to do that piece, but we need AI nonetheless, right? Because not everything can be done by humans. So as we're talking through all of these things that AI can do, the art of possibility with AI, managing expectation of AI, as we are working through all of this, we really have to engage with different levels of people, right? And one of the things that I've been taught from early on in the military is that just because you're double my age does not mean I have nothing to contribute. I remember, and this is totally off the topic, but I got to say it, I had a supervisor who left the impression of a lifetime the first day I stepped into the working military, right? Within 6 months, he said, today you're going to play me. Today you're going to be the boss and I'm going to work for you. Imagine what sort of impression that left me in my head. I felt the importance, but also the responsibility, the burden of the job that she was doing. Mm-hmm. And that impression, I've always said, there's always a need to connect with somebody who's 10, 20 years younger than you. So that way, the next generation is going to be in a better off position than you are in, right? So those sort of mentality, I would say, is a team sports, because that's the type of team sports that I want people to really learn about. So that way we're looking for multiple professions and multiple age range, right? To say, how do we get this one guy who just started his career yesterday and this guy who's been in his career for 30 years is about to retire, right? So we're looking to develop that sort of team sports of learning AI, so that way we can, first of all, communicate AI very well and figure out what the people, process, and technology.
Well, let me ask you this, being that because you say a 30-year difference, right? So I imagine hearing you say a 30-year difference, I'm thinking about C-suite and a new hire. At what point in time do those roles intersect where there is an actual mentor-mentee type relationship where the newer employee could actually learn from the C-suite and the C-suite can learn from the newer employee, because both of those individuals have something of value that will create change for the landscape of the organization.
Yeah. So if you think about artificial intelligence as a cool technology, you're not capturing the artificial intelligence's contribution actually. What artificial intelligence does, it makes things better, faster, and cheaper, right? If not better, faster, and cheaper, it helps you make more money, save more money, or gives you less risk, right? You're able to do things with less risk. So if you're going after artificial intelligence, you don't want to think that you know enough to say, I can do better, faster, and cheaper. Well, the better, faster, and cheaper is changing dramatically every day, not necessarily every 4 years. Every 4 years means
You froze.
30 years ago. Are you there?
I'm here.
Hello?
Your screen changed.
Oh, my battery's dying.
Oh,
Give me
wow.
1 second. I'll be right back.
All right. You know what? You should probably play the Smart AI intro video while you're putting your battery up, because you don't want any dead screen time. That's like the #1 no-no of all broadcasts. Okay. So while you're looking for the battery, put the Smart AI with Andrew Yang's video. But excellent conversation, though. I think this is very insightful.
Yeah, and when you do it in real time, you see people's change sort of starts, like a perspective starts kind of changing, right? So let me run digital twin. It did not take. I realized like how fast my computer just stopped working.
Yeah, you were on a lag there for a moment, but increase that screen.
Tell me if the audio is coming through.
In essence, a digital twin is a digital duplicate of a physical.
Well, it's not in the big screen, right?
That is used for simulation analysis.
Make it a big screen so it'll go across.
Businesses are already using digital twins for things like predictive maintenance, where engineers can monitor the digital twin of a jet engine to predict and prevent failures before they happen. In smart cities, urban planners can use digital twins to visualize and analyze the city's infrastructure, optimizing things like traffic flow. In Formula One, digital twins of race cars are revolutionizing development cycles, allowing for simulations in virtual wind tunnels and on virtual racetracks. And in healthcare, doctors can use digital twins to create virtual replicas of someone's organ, to predict how they would react to different treatments, tailoring therapies just so they are right for them. We're only just at the beginning of this revolutionary
Why'd you turn it off? Oh. Why did you turn it off?
Hit subscribe to keep up with the most important future trends.
Oh, it's over now. You're like, that's why you've seen it over and over. I love, what the interesting thing is, thinking back when I was in school and I was, in those labs, when we think about digital twins these days and when we're in the research lab, to be able to, actually simulate something that's happening to get a quicker result, I think it's just the best thing ever.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that really with digital twin we have to do is get people to start thinking digital twin differently. So one of the things that I do is tell people, like, if you have a car and your car says a dashboard, oil is low or engine is checking,
Mhm.
is that a digital twin, right? In my opinion, it is, right? It's just a matter of something that has a sensors, and you're reading that digital sensors input that gives you visual so that we can see it, right? Otherwise, you have to go under your engine every day to see, is my engine okay or not, right?
Yeah, you know what? I can totally see that. I feel like oftentimes when we think about digital twins, just like when we just saw the simulation of the heart and the Formula One engine, it's in print versus in visuals, right? That's the same thing. Like, for example, when I take my parents to the doctors and the doctor gives us a report, in order for me to be able to explain that to them, I'll do a forensic dive, upload it into AI, and say, give a forensic dive with this and tell me what it means.
Right.
So, they'll take the coding, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and they break down. Same thing with your vehicle or any other thing that's giving you codes.
Yeah.
You may not see the visual of it.
Yeah.
But before the visual takes place, you have to have a manuscript or transcript of what is happening or what will happen.
And that's literally half of the feedback that we've had for so long. But now, because of artificial intelligence, we had other half side of the feedback, right? Which is that now if I can press a button and fix that issue, because there's a full feedback loop, first you tell me there's a trouble, second you fix it for me before I even have to do anything.
Mhm.
Because previously I taught you how to fix that, right? I told you about the troubleshooting steps as an AI. Now as an AI, you have learned it. So it's a half of feedback that we have right now. Right now, the car says engine needs to check, but I press that button, engine is checked, right?
Yeah.
Or say something along the line of the heart is, doing something. You already have the machine in place. The patient is like thousands of miles away. You are able to press a button and say, fix that because the heart has done this previously. Now you can fix it without being there in person, right?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So there are steps behind these things, because why would you spend so much money on building digital twin when it doesn't really do anything differently other than show you what you are used to seeing anyway? You just see things, but it doesn't do anything. If it doesn't, then I start challenging, like, are you really doing digital twin or is it just a gimmick?
Right.
You're still showing me a dashboard. I mean, I'm used to dashboard. Why can't I press that dashboard?
It's like it's like that's the old way of doing things. Now we're to the point where we can fix on the fly because of the digital twin. We see all of the things that happen, what's going to happen, and how we could get ahead of that before it does happen to create a new outcome.
I mean, there's so many.
Sounds like butterfly effect to me. Right, yes, digital twin.
There's just so many of those examples that you can go through, and you can just get your mind blown, because the fact is, we don't call it digital twin. We call it a lot of other things like a virtual prototyping, things of that nature. But at the same time, it's a feedback loop. It's a feedback mechanism. If I have half of the feedback, I just call it a dashboard that could have digital twin possibilities. But the other half of the feedback is digital twin. Like if I can create a full circle of it, press the button, make something happen, say a command, make something happen, that's my digital twin, right? So the robotic piece of it, it captures everybody's attention. That's why I say humanoid robot versus digital twin versus AI. There is no versus, right? AI allows digital twin to happen. If you have digital twin, you can do humanoid robots like nobody's business. But let me correct myself. I said you can. They're already doing it. They have tons of these robots out on the street that's roaming right now because of digital twin, because of some of the things that NVIDIA's OSD, open source, no, USD, anyways, I'm not gonna, scene designer. It's a universal scene designer. That's what it's called. USD. It's open sourced, right? It's like you want to go in there, map out your neighborhood and figure out how to use a digital twin in your trash collection process, which by the way, is what we're going to do in our cohort. We're going to talk about digital twin. We're going to talk about humanoid robots. We're going to say, how do we do digital twin with minimum amount of hardware that we don't have to buy? Repurpose and reutilize the IoT sensors that we already have, those old hardwares. How do we put digital twin into it, right?
Sounds fun. I can't wait.
See, I love that excitement. Yeah.
Do you have any videos for us to watch for the humanoid robot, or is it just print?
Well, one that I have off top of my head, I have to kind of dig through it because there are some. It's called 2 minutes paper. if you don't get excited about technology, just this guy's voice will get you excited because he has this
OpenAI built
specifically.
a high.
Let me play a video of it. Do you have time, by the way? I knew we were about like 12 minutes close.
Yeah, we got 12 minutes.
Okay, so that's 5 minutes long.
While you're looking for it, can you talk and look at the same time? Maybe you can tell everyone who's watching and listening how to get involved in the humanoid robot cohort.
Yeah. So I guess the idea is that we're going to have a minimum of 4. We need minimum of 4 in quorum. And if you have 7, that'd be ideal, but we need minimum of 4. But previously we had quorum of 4, but this time around we're looking for a specific type of persona. Because we've had data scientists previously. They're all data scientists, and only one of them was like able to do project management. Right? Had some business savviness. They weren't all into doing data development, right? So they all didn't have the same sort of passion.
Yeah.
So the realistic.
What type of individuals are we looking for? So when they hear you talking about it today, they could be like, "Ooh, that's me."
Yeah, no, anybody who's first of all an enthusiast about AI, right? They see the potential in AI, and then the second one is that they've already gotten started in their career, but they have very little time. And the reason I say that is because they have to learn really, really fast in order to adapt, right? And we want to show them the fastest way possible. So somebody who thinks like, okay, these guys are going really fast, but I'm not an appetite for really fast. I'm an appetite for like, not really slow. I guess the different way of saying it is that we're going to try to say you don't have to spend decades learning this like I did.
Right. It's like when we hear, look, if you have a project that you want to do in 10 years, let's do it in a day.
Let's do it in a day.
Let's do it in a day.
I mean, that's what Smart AI stands for, right? We're looking for specialists that believes in methods so they can advocate for a specific reason. Because we're going to talk about Pawn the AI now, right? So if you're a security hacking type of guy, you're going to say, yeah, I want to do Pawn the AI because I know a lot about security. And we're going to match that persona of security and AI with somebody who's thinking, how do I stay secured? How do I not get hacked? So I want to work with this guy to figure out how does he hack somebody, right? So that 2 persona, maybe a few more, maybe like some startup ideas or business ideas, or just somebody professional who's going to lead a team. Remember, we talked about that part about leading a people's team so the process can work. We really want people to see that challenge of how that actually works out in real world. Because a lot of the leaders have dealt with people, but we want them to see how AI makes that difference, right? Because the previous IT technology that used to take 6 months to deliver, now you can do AI projects in 6 days, right?
Yeah.
If you deliver it correctly, right?
Right.
So we want to be able to show them how fast things moves. So those personas are really, I would say, would be a key differentiator in the 5th year of trying, because previously we've tried cohort members that were sort of like IT members, really. So I think you get the point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds to me like you're thinking like maybe some lean people. They've gotten some lean certifications. Let's see how we can get on the edge of that to get even faster.
That's right. I mean, if you look up digital twin, Unreal Engine is one of the biggest use case you can find. But what I was looking for is NVIDIA's training pilot right here. So these are the AI robots that are simulated, right? But if you can build an actual robot that has joints like these robots, you don't need to train that robot to do anything on day 0. Literally, by installing a software, that robot will do things because it has a software that's already trained to do what this robot is doing on simulation.
That's pretty awesome. There was a movie I feel like I've seen recently that I don't remember the name of it right now, but it was a robot like, oh no, you know what? It was an old movie. It was an old movie with Halle Berry, and it was like from 2015, and I was like, oh, they had a humanoid son. She was an astronaut.
I'll tell you what. The one that you would love the most, the one that I'm going down for, is they taught an AI to stand in a military formation and simulate falling down and getting back up. So just imagine they give them instruction to say, you're standing up, but now that I'm going to let you collapse, everybody collapses, but you have to utilize all the methods you know in order to stand up, go upright.
Yeah.
Me and you are thinking like that's easy peasy, right? To simulate that, it took so much effort to the robots, the simulated robots, to learn that, right? In simulation, inside of a computer. They did this training that is about 10 years long for a robot to do in physical world. I think they did it in 10 weeks in simulation.
That's interesting, because listening to you say that, it's reminding me, I was on a bike ride. I was in Griffith Park and I was falling over. I was on a bike. I was literally, I'm falling over, and my brain says, you're falling over. And so as I'm falling, I drop my feet down off the bike. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, I can totally see that robot falling and then having to.
This guy will show you some of the clips of how those robots fixed themselves every time they fell. So they took like multiple iterations of attempt in order to say, not only am I going to fall, but I'm going to stand up with grace, stand up straight, and go back to the position that I started from.
Yeah.
So that's a 10-year long thing that maybe a physical robot will take, but a simulation took very little time. But now you take that simulation and put it inside of a robot, all of a sudden on day one, that robot knows something that it would have taken 10 years for it to learn by itself. And lots of hardware damages, zero hardware damages. That's a shiny spirit new robot that can do parkours and flip-flops.
Wow. It's making me think about a human being that recognizes that they're simply spirit. And so all of their human experiences does not alter them from living in a space of excellence. They just fix themselves instantaneously because they realize that that space is not real, right? That space of falling or that simulation of not being well, it's not real. It's an illusion.
Yeah. I love this. Just came to my head. I love this comment by Mark Twain. He said, I have experienced many terrible things in my life. Some of them has actually happened.
Yeah, that.
Simulate so many things in our head that's going wrong. All of a sudden, I've experienced only some of them.
Right.
So, all right, last one, but quickly, just maybe a minute and a half.
This one's super exciting. I feel like this has happened to people when they feel like someone has cloned their phone. So talk to us about pawn to own.
So I have a specific affinity to, anything that's ethical hacking related, cybersecurity related. So, one of the things that led me into cybersecurity is because of my military background, right? Because I used to actually read pieces of paper on it every day from a machine that will tell me what has happened while I was sleeping before I came to shift. So it will have a bunch of dots in it. It will say a bunch of numbers, and I have to read through the numbers to figure out, like, okay, where was this attack at? What was this breach like? And those are physical breaches, so those are not cyber attack, right? So I became a cyber ethical hacker by learning Linux and things of that nature. But this pawn term is something you can look up when a website gets hacked. There's a website called "Have You Been Pawned?" Right. So what it's referencing to is that have somebody taken over your website, a malicious person or something like that. So pawn to own is a term. Once you've been hacked, once you've been owned by somebody, you've been owned now. So pawn to own competition means that it's like bug bounty, but in a hackathon, right? Instead of somebody looking through the vulnerabilities in a specific way, this one is out and open. They invite people to come in and say, break this thing as much as you can so we can learn how you broke it, right? And if you are very specific with it, if you have done an excellent job, of course, there's a lot of prizes involved, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So a bug bounty is the term that they use in the software world, but this one, it goes into deep as hardware, right? Say, for example, VCC. There's one for the vehicles alone. How do you break into a vehicle using the pawn-to-own methods, right? So this year, I think is the first year they're going to do Pawn the AI. They have done that already. It already happened. Pawn the AI means you're breaking into the AI and hacking that AI, right? Now I'm thinking already somebody's intimidated, like, oh, wait, I'm not trying to do all that. The greatest way you can learn about AI is if you're learning it from the other side. If you're learning from the other side where you're not creating one, but you're breaking one.
Yeah.
Because you can see what's already been built and why that's so interesting. So I'll give you a quick highlight of what I did. I used to be able to do digital forensics using forensic toolkits to figure out where in the hardware did the breach happen. Like what actually happens to the hardware when the attacker's attacked, right? So you're able to reverse engineer from the device itself and look into the device and say, these are some of the things that happen to the system, right? So when you think about Pawn the AI, you're thinking about it the same way. You're looking at it from a hardware perspective, if that's how deep you have to go, or you're catching the trail of how the AI was built. Now you follow that trail to get to a point where you can attack it, right? Attack means you're finding vulnerability, not malicious things, but you have to have like a lot of permissions and a lot of good intentions. You have to be ethical, first of all. You don't want to just hack because you want to make money. Of course, those are the things that you have to consider. So what we want to do is take a group of mixed persona, and this one is definitely 7. It cannot do with 4. It has to be 7 because we actually want to attend this competition. The next one is in Tokyo. If that's the case, how do we build a team and how do we take that team to actually visit the next Pawn the AI competition and have them, participate? So where do we start? I think here's the challenge. We want to start as where they are, right? Rather than say like, oh no, you got to go to school for 5 years, right? We want to start where they're at. So I'll just leave it at that. I think it's going to be very exciting to do the Pawn the AI competition.
Me too. I'm excited just hearing about it. Great things on the horizon.
Let's see who joins us. We're 5 short.
We're putting the word out for those of you who are watching and listening. Let's go.
Ay is out.
Ay.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Where's my instrument? There's my instrument. Pow.